I did have an ex that was like that. She was like, "Oh, that's why we don't get along because you're a Gemini." I'm like, "No, it's because you're a bitch." Like, what the fuck?
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. I'm Mario.
And I'm Peter.
And we're Guys That Listen. On today's show, we have the very tall, very handsome Ernest the Chiro.
Yeah, my name is Ernest. I'm a chiropractor. I'm also an acupuncturist, and I'm also a transformation coach.
How can you help us transform each other?
You want to start now? we could go there right now.
Tell me now. What I got to do.
I'm saving that for later. But
Wait, did you go through that like in order? Do you consider yourself a chiro first?
no, actually, I started as a massage therapist.
Oh,
so
shit.
that started first,
Oh,
and then
damn.
chiropractic acupuncture. It was a dual program, so I studied it together. So I graduated with 2 degrees at the same time.
How long does that take?
Yeah.
They're 4 years each, but the program that I went to, the science classes overlapped. So
Okay.
basically, I was doing like the chiro classes in the day, and then the acupuncture classes at night.
Oh,
So like,
damn.
So
yeah, I
these
didn't
are-
have no life for like 4 years. Yeah,
But it's worth it now.
yeah.
Nice,
And it's
nice.
not like it's not like college classes, like you're going and sitting on a lecture, right? You're actually going in and working on people and stuff like
So,
that, or
well,
is
you
it
do
like
go-
theory?
You do your undergrad, right?
Yeah.
And then it's grad school. And so the first 2 years is probably more of the science classes,
Yeah.
and then the last 2 years you're in the clinic. So total, like 8 years total.
Oh,
yeah.
damn.
So I've been in
Okay.
school since like kindergarten till I was like 28.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, talking about, yeah, that's
It's-
hard to have
it's
life
tough,
when you're
yeah.
doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're doing all 3 things right now, currently?
Yeah.
Concurrently with each other. Wow, that's insane. So you get out of school.
Yeah.
What's the first thing you're thinking? You're like, damn, I've been in school for like 28 years.
Yeah.
What the fuck do I do now? I'm a chiropractor, acupuncture person,
Yeah.
and also a transformational coach. Like, what? How do you choose? Like, what's the first step outside of school?
Yeah. So like everyone thinks like once you get your degree, you come out of school, like you're gonna land a job and just start making a lot of money, right?
That's what they tell you.
That's it's just like
And they
any
lie.
other type of work. You got to go find the job. You got to put in your resume. You got to do your interview. So nothing's guaranteed, right? And in school, they don't really teach you business
Yeah.
strategies or like how to build a business, how to start a business. So if you're not business minded, you're just gonna end up working for somebody else, and maybe you could get stuck doing that. But I did that because I wanted to learn, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's good for the first couple of years to apprentice under somebody and really learn the trade and learn how the business runs
Yeah.
before you start your own. Although some people can do that straight out of school, but I didn't know what to do. So yeah, I thought I had a dream that like, all right, once I'm done with school, then I'm gonna get a job and just start making all this money. But I didn't. I got a job and I got paid really, really low, and I was shocked, But I had to work up, build up, and just kind of pay my dues.
So you basically went to work for someone else and kind of learned more, or what did
The
you do
business
exactly?
side of things, right? Like
Yeah.
Is
how
that, where did you learn the business side of things?
Yeah. So the whole story is my dad. He's an acupuncturist, right?
Oh,
But growing up, I wanted to do something different. I didn't just want to follow his footsteps. I wanted to do something bigger, better, and different, right?
Yeah.
So long story short, I'm out of school. And I'm like, hey, Dad, let me come work for you. I have all these ideas. You're old school. Let me bring
I love
in
that.
all the new like technology
that
and
work
ideas and marketing ideas, and let me just come and just kill it. He's like, all right, cool, let's do that. I start, and then I'm thinking, oh, he's gonna pay me good, and he's gonna like, he's gonna bring me in, and just like, I'm gonna save his practice. But I mean, his practice didn't need saving, but I wanted to like upgrade it and make
next
it
level.
bigger,
Yep.
Next level. He started me on the bottom of the bottom, right? He didn't want to call me doctor. Like he was like stumbling to say, this is Dr. Ernest, 'cause he just wasn't used to it, and the way he grew up, the way he practiced was in his day, when you finish school, you have to apprentice, right? So for him, he's like, he had to apprentice for like 4 years before like he got to really like do his own thing.
Yeah.
So he was under that mindset. He wanted me like kind of like Karate Kid. He wanted me to like do all the like grunt stuff before he felt like I earned my title and I earned sort of the respect. And at that time, I was kind of upset by that. Like, what the heck?
Yeah, because you're going to school and everything for it
like,
already. And
yeah,
you're
like I paid my dues. Like in terms of schooling, I was in school for 20 plus years. But looking back, I kind of appreciate that he did that because it made me hungry. It made me determined.
Did you always have a good relationship with your dad?
Growing up, no.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we butt heads quite a bit. Yeah.
Is that why you didn't want to be an acupuncturist?
No, not really. I was always very like independent. I was
Okay.
always like wanted to do things on my own. Like, you know, I didn't like asking for money. So I'm like, let me go make my own money. Let me go do my own thing.
Yeah.
You know,
So how did you go from not wanting to be an acupuncturist?
So basically, I started having pain in my own body. So the way I got into this was by being a patient.
Yeah.
So, you know, I had a lot of low back pain growing up since like high school for a number of reasons. But basically, I ended up getting a lot of treatment for my back. You know, doing massage, doing acupuncture, chiropractic, and doing all of that. And I thought maybe if I do go medical, I'll go medical doctor or something different, you know, but it kept bringing me back to like the wellness, the holistic, the natural, you know, the diet, the lifestyle, the stretching, you know what I'm saying? And so naturally my passion and my interest kind of kept gravitating back towards that. And during that whole time, my dad was like, hey, you should go to medical school, you know, you should, so you could
classic Asian dad
and make more money and, you know, do something different.
I actually really resonate with that because my dad, he's a janitor. He came here, he hopped the border at 5 a.m., started cleaning at 5 p.m. same day. And he's like built his own like, you know, janitorial like empire from like, you know, since he started. And I've always worked with him. But when I was younger, I'm like, I don't want to do this. Like, I don't want to take over the business. I don't want to like, you know, do the same thing you do. And I try to do my own things. But eventually, like, I ended up doing the same thing and following after his footsteps. And he also started me off where it's like, okay, you're going to go clean, you're going to do this, and you're going to get paid minimum wage.
Yeah.
You know, we're not paying you extra to do this. Like, I worked when I was in 8th grade. He'd like, you know, put me out there and like I'd go and like clean and stuff. And it's always been like, you have to pay your dues. You have to pay your dues because you learn the business from the ground up. And you get so much more respect when you can go in and you can go do everything that like, you know, all the employees can do. It's a difference, you know. You have to be able to do everything from the bottom to the top. For
sure. Yeah. And it's crazy because that's my story, but then his story of how he started is like way crazier, you know. Like he came here with however much money and just he somehow was able to pay through, you know, he was actually a janitor at his acupuncture school to pay for the tuition.
I love that.
You know what I mean? So like after classes, he would stay, you know, cleaning the facilities, cleaning the school, and that's how he was paying off his tuition. So
that's that immigrant hustle, dude.
Yeah,
it's like,
exactly.
You know, your parents work so freaking hard, and it's like, you see that and it's like, okay, I gotta work harder. Like I have this, like I'm so lucky to be in this first world life and like how all these amenities, water, clean air, all that stuff. And it's like, why shouldn't I try harder?
Yeah. But at the same time too, our generation is a little different, right? We grew up with technology. We grew up with, you know, we can learn things at our fingertips. So the whole apprentice mindset that he had, I think it's kind of fading away. There's definitely important aspects of it that's, I think, important to keep. But at the same time, you can't expect like new fresh students right now to like practice needling on an orange for 1,000 hours before you do it on a person, because you don't even do that at school. You know what I mean? So I could see both sides, you know, where I was like resisting him a little bit, but at the same time, like, dude, like I didn't grow up with that kind of mindset, so you can't expect me to do that.
Did you feel like he was like, no, that's not going to work? And because I came in with the same thing. I'm like, Dad, like I know technology. I know, like, you know, we can like market this on social media and everything too. And I'm like, we can do this, like renovate it like this. And he's like, no, listen here.
Really?
Did you? Yeah. There's a lot of stuff where I'm like, dude, there's all these technologies that we can implement and use to like, you know, modernize our business.
And he said no.
He said no at first. And over time, it's like changed where I'm like, okay, we can do this. We can change things here and make the business a lot more easier, like different ways where we can like, you know, innovate things so it's like streamlined rather than having to do this by hand or by paper, like whatever, you know?
Yeah, pretty much, because by the time that I started working with him, he was 25 years experience, you know? So he's like, you just started here. Like, who are you to like,
Dad, I know.
tell me all these things. So yeah, I had the same resistance.
That is pretty tough though. Like imagine like you've been in the industry for like 25 years and your kid comes in, he's like, Dad, let me tell you what's up.
Listen here, old timer.
Listen here, old timer. I want to tell you how to run your business because I know better. It's probably pretty hard, right? It's not an easy pill to swallow, even if they might be correct. Like I'm sure Mario introduced like the Swiffer and was like, Dad, this is like
Stop.
the newest fucking product here, you know? But at the time, maybe he was like, yo, this is how I've been doing my business for years. And, you know, maybe he had a point. Maybe Mario has a point. Who knows? The idea is that whether or not they could collaborate together to make the business run well, right? Which
Yeah.
eventually you did, like business booming, so doing great, right? But with your dad, I know that you said that you apprenticed under him for acupuncture, right?
Yeah.
So how did that end? Because you already said you guys had butted heads when you were younger.
Yeah.
So now working together, you guys probably see each other more than ever.
Yeah. It was, but surprisingly, like growing up, we butt heads because you know, like I wanted to do my own thing, and like he was giving me curfews and you know things like that.
Asian
He gave me a 10 p.m. curfew. I was like, nah.
Wait,
That
until how
ended.
old? Until how old?
In high school.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So you know.
Damn. Wait, did you follow that?
Nah.
Really?
You guys are bad kids.
So, like, what was the main thing that, like, you felt like you butt heads about when you were in high school and you had a curfew at 10? Because at 10, for me, I was going out with some friends.
Yeah.
Mainly, it was, like, we didn't really do much until, like, 16, 17, when we would go out a little bit later drinking or whatever. But
You're a bad kid, sir. You got in jail at like 16.
No, I didn't. I got arrested when I was 16. I didn't go to jail.
Sorry,
It's
arrested.
different. But for me, it was like I always stayed out late just because I had like a hard family life. Like my parents were always fighting, so I never wanted to be home. So that's why I stayed out. Even when I wasn't doing shit, you know, we were watching South Park at my buddy's house like at 10 or 11 or 12. That's the only reason why I stayed out. But what was like your reason?
I mean, similar, right?
Yeah?
Like most of my friends were out till 12,
Yeah.
1 maybe. Like, you know, that like at least if he was like midnight,
Yeah.
I might be like, okay, fine, I understand. But when
Yeah.
it's like 10 p.m., I'm like, that's when the party starts. So I just sneak out, jump out my window.
Whoa! Wait, what? Wait, so you live on a 2-story house?
Yeah.
Oh,
Shit!
dude, I used
So-
to do the same thing too. So I had a window
Yeah.
and there's a screen, and I take off the screen, take it out, and then get my scooter, throw it outside, and jump out. And then I'd scooter to my girlfriend's house all the way. And
You had a scooter and a girlfriend at the same time?
yeah. I would scooter from my old house, my apartments right there by where did I live? Greenville and Sunflower,
Yeah,
all the
yeah,
way
yeah.
to Sandpoint.
After a couple times, he would like hide my shoes in the.
Wait, what? Wait, what? What do you mean?
Well, so
hide
like
your
all
shoes?
my shoes are by the front door, right? So he would hide my
Asian
shoes,
household, yeah.
because sometimes I would like try to sneak out to the front door. So he hid my shoes in the front door, like where it was. But then I found a pair of dress shoes in my closet, so I threw on some dress shoes, hopped out the window, went to go hang out with my friends. They're like, "What's wrong with your shoes?"
It's like, damn,
What
look
are
at that
those?
drip.
No, that's funny as fuck. Cause like when you're in high school,
What are those?
you don't wear dress shoes. You know what I mean? High school kids don't wear dress shoes. That's
Oh,
not a
heck
thing.
no, yeah.
until
They
you-
made fun of me. I was like, I shouldn't have snuck out.
Look, I
today.
just want to hang out.
Yeah, I just want to hang out with my homies.
Just trying to kick it,
I just want to
man.
do hood rat shit with my hood rat friends. You
Yeah,
know?
exactly.
But you keep on saying things about your dad. I noticed that you
Yeah.
haven't spoken about your mom. Like, what's your history with her?
Yeah, so my mom, they separated when I was really young. So I didn't get to meet my mom until after high school. Yeah.
Wait,
yeah,
what?
so
Wait, you didn't get
Meet
to
or
meet
hang
your
out?
mom?
Yeah.
Oh,
So I
wow.
grew up in a broken family.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
shit.
So my dad had remarried, but that was my stepmom.
Yeah.
So I had.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wait,
From what
wait.
age?
Yeah.
All right. So we're gonna.
Yeah,
I'll tell the
Yeah,
whole.
we going in right now.
Hey,
We going in.
Childhood trauma's coming out.
Hey, if you want that drink now.
All right. So when I was born, right, I was born here, and then my parents split.
Yeah.
And my dad took me, and actually, I flew to Korea with my grandparents. So they raised me. My dad was actually in acupuncture school, so he was going to school.
Wow.
I went back to Korea. I grew up with them until I was like 4, and so I came back to the States, right, to start like preschool, kindergarten.
Mhm.
By that time, my dad had remarried.
Oh.
Oh shit.
Yeah, so then they were saying, "Oh, hey, your mom's been sick, and she's ready to, see you now." And so, yeah, I went into a household thinking that this was my mom, growing up with my dad. Yeah, yeah. This is like this is like a K drama.
Wait, this
Yeah.
is in Korea? Or
No, this is here.
This
This
is
is
back
here.
here.
Back in the
So once
States.
you're back here,
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I was with my grandparents, they're like, "Hey, your dad's in school,
Yeah.
and your mom's
Yeah.
sick, and that's why you're here."
Oh.
And then he had remarried, and then so I came back, and I'm in
So you
this,
came back and
in
that's
this
it.
family now with my stepmom, thinking that's
I think that's
my
your
real
mom.
mom.
Uh-huh.
And then my brother was born when I was like 5 or 6. And, me and my stepmom, we didn't really get along that well. She was very strict, like super
No.
strict.
Korean too.
Yeah. So classic,
Yeah.
Korean traditional
Mhm.
household, And when you're the oldest in a Korean family, like they expect you to be like leading by example. Like you got to be the perfect one, especially if you're a son, you're the oldest son, then it's like all the pressure's on you. You know what I'm saying? But my brother, I noticed that like, you know, she was treating him a little bit different. You know, I felt like what's going on here? You know, yeah, a little bit. So like when I was going through school, like I could never miss a day of school. In fact, in elementary, I never missed a day of school in elementary.
I got the same thing. I got that reward.
I got the perfect attendance award.
That's the only award he ever got.
He ain't wrong.
But then when my brother was going to school, they would go on vacations all the time. And I'm like,
wow,
yo,
that's crazy.
What's going
This
on?
is literally like K-drama.
You know, and I was like, can I come with you guys? They're like, no, you have to go to school.
Whoa.
And I'm like,
whoa, you asked and they said no.
yeah. I'm like, what about him?
That hurts
You know?
my heart.
Sorry, I don't mean to like bring it back that far, but it's like you were saying that your mom was sick.
Yeah, because that's why I hadn't met her.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So did you end up meeting her?
No, so my stepmom told me that was my mother.
Yep.
So growing up, I thought that was my mom. So
Okay,
I had
so-
no
so-
idea, right? Well, I kind of had an idea. That's the thing. As
Oh, you
kids,
did.
you know, as kids, you're kind of
Yeah.
intuitive, right?
Mhm.
So all these examples I'm sharing with you about my brother and stuff, I was always kind of questioning.
like, why?
Your sixth sense.
Wow.
Yeah, my sixth sense,
Sense.
you know? And I was kind of questioning,
Do you
like,
feel like your brother knew too?
no,
Whoa.
no way. Yeah.
Wow.
He was still young,
Yeah.
you know? When I was 6, 7, he was like 2, you know what I mean?
So how long did you feel like it went on for before you're like, hey, what's up?
So I
first?
think I started questioning around age 10, maybe.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
from 10 to 13, 14 was started to intensify. You know what I mean? And then as I was getting older, me and her, we were butting heads, you know, and it was getting kind of bad. And
any specific reason?
no, just I was very like wild. Like I was very like loud and energetic and just
okay.
all over the place as a kid. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I was just getting in trouble. I get in trouble in school, get in trouble by, you know, my family, my parents, and I was just always being scolded growing up, you know?
Yeah.
just try and be me, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, I
no,
feel you.
But anyways, it eventually my parents split. They decided to divorce. Okay, hold on. The way I found out, so here's the thing. She was everywhere we went, right? She was a little bit younger than my dad. So everywhere we went, they would be like, "Oh, you don't look like your mom. You don't look like your dad." And they'd be like, "Oh no, he looks like his grandpa," you know. And then they'd also be like, "Oh, you're so young to be a mom. Like, oh wow, your son's so old." You know what I mean? Like you kind of hear that, and,
Yeah.
and like, you know, as a kid, you start to wonder too.
Okay, like, what the hell?
And I didn't look like her, you know, obviously. And I don't really look like my dad. I look more like my mom, my biological
Yeah,
mom.
yeah.
You know, so I started kind of questioning that. And basically one day, my friend from middle school, she was like, "Hey, I got to tell you something." And I was like, "What do you have to tell me?" And she was like, "Hey, that's not your mom." You
Your
know?
friend from middle school
Yeah.
told you? How the hell does
Yeah.
your friend from middle school know?
Because her mom was close to my stepmom.
Oh,
Right.
shit.
So they got close. They got close over the years.
And they
then-
talked.
Yeah, they
And the
talked.
Koreans, too, I'm
And
assuming.
eventually, she was like, had to tell her.
Yeah.
Because like if you do the math, that means that my stepmom would have had to had me at like 18.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's that's a whole story in itself, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
she
In
eventually,
America, it's definitely possible, but yeah.
yeah.
for
So
sure.
she told her what happened, and then my friend's mom was like, "Oh, that's not right," you know. So she told her daughter to tell me. But the thing is, by the time she told me that, like, I was shocked, but not. You know what I mean? I was kind of like,
kind of already had.
Kinda
a
I was
Yeah.
kind of like, okay, now it all makes sense, you know. But I was really, really angry. I was really angry about
Wait,
that.
you found out that was like one of the first emotions was anger?
Oh yeah, betrayal.
Yeah,
anger.
because they didn't tell you
Because
anything.
my whole family was in on it. They were all in on
Yeah.
it, and they
That's
all had
fucked
to, you know, they all had to lie, and they all had to like put this act,
Yeah,
right,
facade.
facade.
Yeah.
And so, and then at that time, my dad and my stepmom, they were getting a divorce because there's just too much going on.
At
turmoil
the same time?
At the same time.
Dang.
Well, that kind of spurred it. Like that
Yeah.
kind of like made
Yeah,
it
it's
like,
made it
okay, like
worse.
let's really do that,
Yeah.
you know. And then then me and my dad went to go live together, and then my brother and my stepmom, they stayed together. So
Oh, damn.
yeah,
So
it
you
kinda
guys got split up.
Yeah.
At
So-
what point did you end up meeting your mom then? Or
So then from there, I was like, okay, then where's my mom then?
Yeah.
You know, like now there's like this whole mystery, like
Mhm.
question, like where's she at? But at that time, I was so upset. I was so mad that I didn't really like I wasn't really interested either,
Yeah.
you know, to like look for it. Because now I'm like, let me like find myself, you know, like my whole life
Who
didn't
am I
make any
really?
sense, you know. So I'd say from 16, from 14 to 17, that's when I was like, you know, jumping out the window, and, you know what I mean, like causing trouble.
Do you
Yeah.
think that
Saying-
sparked it? Do you think the fact
yeah.
that you
I'm
found out,
sure.
you're
I'm
like,
sure.
fuck,
Yeah.
Yeah,
why did I need to listen to you? You've been lying to me my whole life. I'm gonna fucking do my own
exactly.
thing. Oh,
And then
fuck.
you apply that to just anybody who's an authoritative figure
Yeah.
in your life. But then around that time, I also became really interested in like Eastern philosophy, psychology, like
Okay.
because then it became like, what's the meaning of life, right? Because
Wait,
like
in your teens, this is what you're
yeah,
thinking?
because it got to the point of like what's the point
What's
of
the-
all
yeah,
this
yeah.
suffering and all this, you know, like
some
emotional
Siddhartha stuff.
heaviness. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? So
And you find
Like-
solace in that.
yeah, so I needed to find out, like, you know, what does this all mean? Like, what's the point of all this? Like, if it's just to be disappointed, you know what I mean? And so from that point, I became really interested in studying all of that. And so in college, I ended up studying psychology. So
Oh.
I switched from the medical school pre-med to psychology.
Oh wow.
And then that started like my direction of going this way. And then
Oh,
from there, it's funny because so when all this was going on, my mom thought that I was living like this nice life, and she was
Wait,
all
your
the
mom
way-
isn't like your
my
blood
biological mom. Yeah, she was all the way in the East Coast,
mom? Oh, so she didn't know at
and
this time.
she didn't know like what was going on with my life, right? But then right around this time, one of her family members like ran into my dad at like a conference or something.
This is like a K-drama for real. Like, how does this happen? That's crazy.
And they exchanged information, and so that's how I got to reconnect with my mom, because my dad was like, hey, you know, I got word from your mom, do you want to meet her? Because prior to that, they were like, we don't know where your mom is, she's gone.
Whoa, that's
And this was
crazy.
before Facebook,
Yeah, this is-
before
yeah.
internet,
Dude, how did
That's what I was
before-
thinking too. Like, you got a beeper maybe or something.
Yeah,
you
no.
know?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I've heard stories like this where I'm just like dumbfounded how it ever happens. You know, I have a friend who he's also a doctor too. He like his dad was never around because his mom like had taken him and his brothers away from his dad. And when he met his dad had walked up to him randomly. He was like, "Hey, you're my son," like at like a family party or whatever that he had never gone to. And ever since then, he came up to his mom and was like, "Oh, I met my dad." And the mom was like, "That's not your dad." And it was like they took him away, went to another place, never saw his dad again. Next thing he knew, dad was already passed.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
What?
yeah. And I'm like, oh, it's crazy because like sometimes, especially like in relationships like that, parents really try to separate like
Oh, that's
the
crazy.
kids from the parents a lot. And to hear, you know, like after what you went through, finding out, because like he didn't find out that his biological or his dad was not really his dad. It's just he never met him.
Yeah.
In your case, like you had a mom or what you thought was who you thought was your mom at the
Yeah.
time, only to find out she wasn't your real mother.
Yeah, well, you know, in Korean tradition, like the old school tradition, like
Yeah.
divorce is like frowned upon.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And then on top of that, if you know, like the kids get separated, like it's a disgrace, especially at like such a young age.
Yeah,
You know,
just
so
try to stick it through,
Especially
right?
if you're
Until
in
college.
college.
yeah,
too.
yeah. So they were trying to protect me and trying to protect the image of our family.
Yeah.
You know, by like doing all of that.
Oh.
I heard image is a very big thing in
Yeah.
especially
Oh, yeah.
in Korean culture. So that all happened, and
Yeah.
then it goes to, you know, you end up meeting your mom. How does that turn out?
Yeah. That at first I was a little hesitant at first. I was in college at the time studying, and you know, it all kind of popped up out of nowhere, and a part of me did, of course, want to meet her,
Yeah.
right? To kind of tie in the loose ends, like who is she, like how does, you know, what happened. I wanted to hear her side of the story, and
You want to know why?
not so much the why, but just let me just like meet you, hear your side of the story, and
Yeah.
just like let me see if I look like you.
Yeah.
I wanted to know.
Try to make some
find out-
connections how you are.
Yeah,
as a
yeah,
person.
yeah. So we started talking over email at first,
Wow.
and we set a time to meet my summer break when I came back from school. So I went to school out of state. I was in Colorado. So she was living in the East Coast at the time.
Oh.
And so we set a time where we could meet here back home in California. And I told her, okay, I'll go pick you up from the airport, and then we'll go and talk. So I only have a picture of her, right, an email, because again, there's no like Facebook or text or I mean,
What
there's
year is
text.
this?
What year is this? This is 2007, maybe.
Oh, shit.
Okay,
Yeah, I know where she's. I know I'm waiting for her to come off the plane, right? And I'm at the airport and I'm just standing and I kind of have an idea what she looks like based on her old picture because there's no current picture.
Oh.
And but like as soon as she walked like right in front of me, I just knew. I was like, oh, that's my mom.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
What did
Yeah.
you first feel when you saw her? Like first.
You know what? When I first saw her, it was just more like, okay, I know that's my mom. And she was crying, and she was crying like the whole way there.
Oh, she was already crying as soon as.
Well,
I'm about to go.
well, no,
right
wait.
now.
Wait. So sorry. No, when I met her, she was okay. She was okay.
Mm.
It was when she was leaving. But anyways,
Oh, okay.
so I met her. So I met her at the airport. Then we went back, and we stayed at my dad's house. He left. He like vacated the house for us.
Yeah.
So she stayed with me for like 3 days, I think. And so basically we talked the whole time. You know what I mean? And I got to hear her side of the story, which is a lot different, obviously, from my dad's side of the story.
Oh, wow.
And just kind of connecting with her and, her state of mind, like where she was at in her life. She was in her early 20s and not making excuses, but when I heard her side of the story, I was like, okay, I could see how that could have happened. You know what I mean? And there was like sort of like more of a piece of like, okay, like I'm at peace with what happened, more so that I got to hear what happened with you. Because the way like, my dad's side, the way they explained was like just out of the blue one day, she was just like, she was done and just disappeared. Right.
Oh.
Whereas like her side was like, she wasn't getting along with my dad and it was like a mutual decision and he didn't want her, being around and he was like, hey, I'm going to take, him and you should leave. You know what I mean? Like it was kind of, it was like totally different.
Yeah.
And she was young and like she came to America with him in hopes of living like this American dream.
Yeah.
Right. But at first there was no dream. They were living out of a van and
struggling,
swap meet at a flea market and you know what I mean, just like in the 80s, just trying to make ends meet, and then on top of that they were fighting, and you know what I mean. So she felt lonely, lost, and scared, and all of that. So not making excuses, like it is what it is, and there's two sides. So I hear both sides, and I'm trying to find the middle, trying to find okay, like this is how I understand what happened, and I understand both sides, and so that was good, and. It didn't all hit until I dropped her off. So when I picked her up and then we talked, it was like natural. It was good. Like, like I said, I recognized her and we talked and it was all good. And then the last day when I took her back to the airport, that's when she was like crying. Because for her, it was like she was leaving me again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because that's what happened. Like that first time when I was a baby, she had to like watch me leave. So she was like a wreck leaving. And she told me she was crying the whole way home on the plane. But then for me, after she left, I went back to my car and I was like on the rooftop of the airport parking lot. And before I got in, I just kind of like sat on the floor and like looked up at the sky, and it was like a beautiful, clear day. And just like I lost it. But it was more like a release, like a cathartic moment where it wasn't like sad. It was more like, oh wow, like it all makes sense now. All the like emotional like struggles and hardship that I went through, it's all good now. It's cool. Not just because that like, oh, I met her and I know who my mom is, but there was just peace. Yeah. And even if I hadn't seen her again after that, I think I would have still been okay.
That's crazy. I've heard about stories like that where it's like it's not about having things make sense. It's a little bit more about the closure of it. Like you got to go through that process and experience it. Like, it doesn't need to be rational, and sometimes trying to rationalize it makes it more difficult. Like, okay, who is telling the real story? My mom or my dad? Like in the very end, it's like it's left to your interpretation, right? And it's more so the fact that now you got to reconnect and like wonder a little bit less. Like you got to talk to this person and you kind of figure out like where you're from, why you are the way you are, if she looked like you, if you look like her, stuff like that.
Did
Those
she?
things matter.
Yeah.
She did?
Yeah.
So she's handsome?
She's probably like 6'5" and stuff like that. That's all.
Yeah, so I definitely look more like her. We have like the same smile and like we have like the same hands and stuff like that. And I could see that like being next to her, which is pretty cool.
What about mannerisms?
Manners, yeah, we have similar mannerisms, which is crazy.
That's
Like,
crazy
she
how
had-
it's like someone who grows up away from
Yeah.
your whole entire life, and you realize you have these same tendencies.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh my God, that thing's so scary, dude. I went home to Vietnam and like I ran into a bunch of my uncles I haven't seen since I was like 4 years old, right? And they all like kind of act like me.
Oh, they're all alcoholic degenerates.
Yeah, a little bit. Like they all like love drinking, but they're all just like hella loud. But they love like being with each other in a group. It was strange, you know, because I'm like, damn, we're in different countries. It's like there's cultural differences between the countries. That in itself is like different. And the fact that I'm here and like, oh shit, like I'm like, you're in my blood, like that's crazy. And
Yeah.
they'd be like, you're in my blood. Like,
I always think there's some kind of like biological spirit that lives on between like, you know, your ancestors and stuff. You have these like tendencies that are like internally programmed in you. You know, maybe.
For sure.
Yeah. I'm sure there is some way somehow I can't explain
Yeah.
it, but I've seen it definitely for sure. I mean, even culturally, it gets passed on. You know, like it doesn't even have to be within like your ancestor. It could be like a cultural group.
Yep.
But yeah, that's crazy.
So did you guys continue the relationship?
Yeah, we did. Yeah. So, but that going back to like what you said about the closure, it was also like a spiritual experience for me. It was like kind of like there's for a moment like everything stopped for a moment. Everything became like really clear, and it's just like the universe was like kind of like smiling. Like it was like I don't know how to describe it, but basically like all the hardships, all the struggles, it was just I don't want to say a facade because it's real when you feel it.
Yeah.
But it was just a story, you know, and I realized in that moment that like who I am, my identity isn't touched by that. There's something greater and bigger than that that's there all the time. Because, I mean, think about it. Like, I was sitting there, right? Nothing really changed my life. You know, nothing physically really changed aside me having a conversation with her. But why do I feel all this peace all of a sudden? And so that realization at that moment was like, oh, I already had this.
Yeah.
Did that conversation influence your path in life that you've decided to take now, as in pursuing all your career and everything else?
Yeah. So there's two aspects of it. There's that whole spiritual aspect of it, but then there's also when you do go through hardships and trauma. So the Eastern philosophy is like the spiritual aspect, the bigger picture, where like at the end of the day, all of that is a facade. All of that doesn't matter. And then there's the Western perspective where, okay, well, you still got to heal through the traumas, right? So that started the beginning of my healing. You know, like obviously I was angry, right? I was hurt. And so I had the spiritual experience, but then now I had to do the work to do the, you know, healing all the traumas. So that's where it all started, where I felt ready to like, okay, now I can, you know, look at myself and work on myself. And I did, you know, all kinds of different types of healing work around that. So yeah, I would say meeting her sort of like softened my heart, because before that I was like cold, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was like, you know, I don't care about, you know, me or the world or whoever, you know, like I was very cold-hearted. And then after that experience, I became like more open-hearted, and it started the journey of healing that.
Damn, that was good, man. That was good. I felt that. We're just like, you got that closure. It changed your trajectory in life.
Yeah, and so from there on till now, it hasn't stopped.
Whoa, from there on till now, you've been on that journey.
Yeah. I think, I mean, as a human, I think it never stops until you die. I think that's the whole point of being a human, being here. You know?
Have you seen like also like being on different journeys? You know what I mean? Like like you go on one path and you heal as much as you can from that, where it comes from something with your parents or your friends or something when you're young or a little bit older, or the current situation of like the world. So I think like definitely like when you said that your heart was cold before you met your mom and kind of like softened up your heart, like I feel like that's something that you had specifically, because in your scenario, you know, like that journey is not going to apply to me and Mario.
Yeah.
You know, being honest, right? Like we've had our parents, so we don't go through that same healing journey. But at certain paths, like we do go through like something very similar, because it's different struggles, right?
Yeah.
Like we don't have to struggle without like having our mom there. You did. And even if it was a struggle not having your mom there, it could be like similar to my friend. You know, he didn't have his dad, but you had a false mom too, which complicates things a lot more when you're like younger. You know, like it's very confusing as a kid.
I think human suffering as a whole is the same, the pain is different. Like the level of pain and the story and the details can change, but I think the human suffering is kind of understandable.
Ooh,
you know,
like
we can
that.
all relate to suffering.
Yeah.
You know, the details might be different. Like, you know, my mom, I didn't know my mom, but then, you know, the suffering of what you went through, just the human suffering, the rawness of it, I think is very similar.
Yes.
Do you think suffering is important for growth?
Yeah. Yeah, I think, you know, I don't want to say that it's necessary for everybody. You know, I think you can have a healthy upbringing and have a good life and still be a good human being.
Yeah.
I think as a human, though, there's some aspect of hardship and breaking through that hardship that leads you to becoming not a better person, but maybe have more depth about you or a deeper experience in life.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the same word too. Like,
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Dude, I watched a video
Yeah.
on this. Remember? I sent it to you guys. It's the PTG versus PTSD. Yeah, post-traumatic growth.
I'm on that same thing where I do feel like you do have to go through some amount of suffering to grow.
Of course.
You know, where it's like you get these lows so that you can come back to these highs. And it's like you don't know you're gonna be on this base. If you never suffer or anything, you're on this like very baseline, and you're going through life and everything's fine and everything. But maybe this is on the average stereotype. Like you become content, and when you experience, because some of the best people I know are the people who have gone through these kind of struggles. Like my dad, he's gone through crazy ass struggles, like crazy ass suffering. You know,
Yeah.
And like it's only obviously his life sucked, but like it made him a better person. It made him better, and it made him like want to be better and want to like grow more. And I'm like, damn, like I see that. I see that so much. And some of these people who are in this point in their life where they've grown and like they understand more of the world, or they're like, you know, very ambitious, or they're very like intuitive, or like just have learned more about themselves. It's because they've gone through this suffering. It's usually like that.
I think the work that I'm doing with like my patients, when they come in and they have their stories or they have their pain and they have their this and that, I feel like I can relate to them more and help them more because of my experience. Yeah. Because if I didn't, I don't know if I could be as beneficial to them.
What ended up happening? How are you and your mom now?
Oh yeah, so we're good now. She moved.
Oh, okay, cool.
She's here now.
It's a happy story.
It's a
Yeah.
happy story.
I like it.
It's a really happy story. No, so my mom, she actually moved here, so she's close by.
To be closer to you, or
Yeah, to be closer to me.
Oh, I love that.
So you know, I got my mom and my dad. They're healthy. They're alive.
they're
so-
cool now. Are they chill? Like
Yeah,
Okay.
they are. Yeah, so I'm blessed. Yeah.
Wow, that's really awesome. Damn. After all that,
yeah.
After
all
all
those
that.
struggles.
Yeah, so I mean, really, after all that, now I have 2 stepmoms, 2 stepdads. You know, and so more love now in my
Closer.
life.
Oh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. All right, so I
Wait,
mean,
2 stepmoms.
Sorry, not 2.
One
2.
stepmom.
Yeah.
One
So
mom
2
and a stepdad?
mother figures and 2 father figures.
Okay.
in my life.
Got
Yeah,
it,
not
okay.
4.
I was like, wait, there's a season 2 to this K-drama.
I mean that would be a K-drama. That's a lot.
No, yeah. I mean, it really is. Yeah.
How's your relationship with your stepbrother?
My half brother.
Your
Yeah,
half
we're
brother?
good.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
So
Nice.
even through all that we grew up,
Oh,
we
okay,
were
I like that.
still together.
All right, so just to dig a little bit, you know
Yeah.
how you said your heart was cold for a little bit and you didn't have a mother figure. Do you feel like that affected you as you're growing up into like your dating life?
Yeah.
Yeah. He didn't even hesitate.
He's like, I only like cold Korean women.
Man, I'm cool sharing like my childhood. But this is like, I feel really exposed now.
Don't worry, he'll delete it.
You
we gotta
know,
hear this.
as I get older, I'm realizing more and more, how that's affected my dating life, how I appear, how I'm present in my dating world based on my previous traumas and based on my previous, relationship to betrayal and trust, especially with, with women,
a lot of layers.
you know what I mean? And I'm still working through that.
So when was the first time you're like, in hindsight, you're like, oh, that makes sense now?
Last week.
What? Wait. What do you
Can
mean?
you elaborate?
Wait, you said that was the first time last week, or you're saying like last week?
One at a time.
I'm kidding. But,
Are you kidding?
no, like, okay, I'll give you an example.
Okay.
Right. So betrayal.
Okay.
Like I didn't consider my mom leaving me when I was a baby because I don't have any memories of that.
Yeah.
I just know that I grew up with my grandparents and then, you know what I mean? Like it
So
mattered
doesn't
later
become a
on in life.
concept, Yeah.
I didn't really realize, but then now I'm realizing like even at that young age as a baby, like it affects you.
Yeah.
You know, and it affects the way you see the world. It affects the way you experience loss in general. So for me, when I experience loss, even if it's a death of a loved one or a family member, it starts with betrayal, because that was the first experience of loss for me. You know what I mean? So it's perceived in the eyes of,
that's your perception of loss.
you know, I'm not good enough for them, or they left, they're not here. Even if somebody died, you know, it's viewed through that lens. And then in a relationship, in a breakup, so like in high school when I was going through like my relationships and breakups, a lot of them broke up with me first, because I was approaching the relationship out of so much like neediness and, you know, wanting to be loved that I didn't get. And then re-experiencing the abandonment and the betrayal, because somehow I'm presenting myself in that way and reliving that. So that kept happening until I started working on myself and until I started realizing. So
what's it like for you now?
Oh man,
that's right.
I'm still working through it.
Yeah.
So each relationship that I approach now, I try to approach it with like, what can I learn from this, and how can I grow from this? And so right now I'm single, but you know, future like relationships, what's really important for me is the other person has to be willing to grow as well. I'm always willing to grow, right?
Mindset.
Work on myself.
Yeah.
She's gonna have to do that, and then also want to grow together. So that's like a requirement for me, because otherwise the relationship, it's not going to mature, it's not going to develop. It's just, you know what I mean? So especially from what I've been through and what I've gone through, that's really important for me. So
I think you're completely on the money on that. And just so you don't feel alone in sharing your own stuff, like I feel the same way, where it's like, I feel that being able to grow with someone is so important. Like you have to have that kind of growth mindset when you date someone, because you're going to have issues. You're going to have problems. Everyone's gone through their own fucking shit, their own issues and stuff. But if you share a common idea of like wanting to be better and knowing that you have these problems, but like willing to grow together, that makes the difference. You know, that makes a huge difference.
It's tough.
That's why on my dating profile it says we're looking for a growth mindset.
That is kind of tough sometimes though, because like it's weird when you grow at different paces. You guys are both growing together, but it might not be at the same like timeline that aligns. You know what I mean? Like I've definitely like dated younger, where like I've experienced the things they've experienced prior to them, because you know I'm older than they are,
right.
And like to see them go through what you had gone through, you're more understanding, but at the same time you're like, damn, am I really gonna go through this bullshit 2 times? You know what I mean?
That's why you don't date young, Peter.
Don't
date young.
How much date older? Is that what you're saying?
Date someone a little older. That's what I'm saying.
A little older. Okay.
27 is the cutoff. At least for me. Sorry, Ernest. How old are you?
37.
37.
Cool.
Okay. Dude, you look so good. How are you 37?
Yesterday.
Hey, say happy belated.
Happy birthday.
Yeah.
We got a little cake here or anything? Like,
get some candles.
do you have a cutoff? Like you know?
It's starting to go higher too.
What is yours?
I don't have like an age cutoff, but I think I would prefer like later 20s.
Okay,
Yeah.
Because so for me personally, it's I think it's 27. I'll go maybe 26, maybe depending on the girl, maybe.
Yeah.
But it's like because
it's not hard, maybe.
Because like I feel like through your early 20s and everything, you start to develop a sense of a bigger sense of self and a sense of like who you are, and start to grow and really develop your personality and start to like, I don't know, become more actualized as a human being, you know? Because I'm 32 now, and like I am not the same person I was when I was 21, when I was 25, when I was 27. But I noticed that when I was like in those later 20s getting to 30s, that I started to become a little more mature, started to become a little more myself too, like who I actually want to be, and start taking those steps to like be that person. So that's why I usually say if I do date someone, the youngest I go is usually 27.
I think guys, we start around that time. Yeah, it takes us to like late 20s, 30s to get there.
It takes us a minute, for sure. So I just wanted to go back into the dating thing. You said you like had to deal with a lot of basically the trauma when you were younger, while you're going through like figuring out who your real mom was, like understanding now that you met your mom and how the reason why your family did what they did, right? But was there a specific person where you're like, damn, like now in hindsight, like I could have made that work if I didn't go through all those things. Like if if those hardships weren't instilled in me and I didn't have like that kind of resentment towards my family, like we could have made this work. But I wasn't that person yet. I haven't grown to that point yet to be that person needed.
Yeah.
Really?
I mean, I could say that with pretty much every relationship.
Really?
You know?
Every relationship?
Well, I mean, there's always hindsight. There's always things you learn from. But I think that's the point of being in a relationship. It's not to be perfect. It's not to be... there's not a relationship where I'm like, man, if I had only done this, we would still be together. Because I look at it like it is what it is. It happened and I'm here. And it's like, for me, each relationship was like learning from the previous one and then learning something new, you know? So I'm not saying each relationship was a better one, because each relationship has its own sort of important qualities to it. But in a way, they're like, it's like kind of like an upgrade each time.
It's a stepping stone.
Stepping stone, depending on like where I'm at in life and who I'm attracting. Because the first, early relationships, I'm attracting people that where I haven't healed some of my traumas. I'm attracting someone to replay those things. Oh, wow. Right? And then when that gets better, then you're not attracted to that anymore.
Yep. Yeah.
You want something different. You know what I mean? So I feel like each relationship that I've been in, it's sort of been evolving in that way. Yes. So I don't really have regrets necessarily. I regret like maybe not being a better, boyfriend or a better person for them, being more emotionally available in that regard, yes. But in terms of like, if I was in a better place then, I would still be with them, or it'd be a different type of relationship. I don't really think like that.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because that's how you learn. That's the whole point.
That's exactly how you learn.
Right?
I'm for me, it's the same exact thing. It's literally the same thing. Where it's like, I've seen every relationship, and I don't mean, when I say stepping stone, I don't mean it in like a negative way. It's more like, hey, this relationship has taught me something, and then the next one's going to teach me something else too. And every time I'm getting a little better, every time I'm evolving, where it's like, I look at who I was in these past ones, and I'm like, damn, like, I was not, I mean, I sucked in some of them, but I've gotten better.
Right.
Like each time I've gotten better. And it obviously the same thing as you said, where it's like, I wish I was a little bit better on these last ones. Like, wish I could have been more emotionally available. Wish I could have been like a better boyfriend, like a better person here and there. But each time I've gone on to like the next person, like I've gotten that a little better. I've learned my lesson from that last one. And I've tried to become a better partner. And that's what it is, though. That's what it is with dating. At least that's what my philosophy for dating is. Like, every time you do go on to the next person and you do date someone new, you should be better than your last one.
I mean, that's like the ideal world, right?
Yeah.
Like, you get a better mate and you become better yourself.
Yeah.
But do you guys feel like sometimes you repeat like certain actions that you've regretted before, like in the past relationships? Sometimes it's kind of mirror each other. Because I know personally for me, something that, well, I know it's like my flaw. Like I'm very like hot-headed. It's very hard for me to get over. I might be better little by little. It's like a building block, but I haven't gotten over it. You know what I mean? It's one thing I would say regret, because I'm like, damn, like I can't believe I have not figured this out by now.
That's why you got to date older.
You date way too young. That's your problem.
Right. To be fair, the last one was the youngest. That's only 6 years. Not that bad, right?
In Chinese astrology, they say 4 years and 8 years gap is like the most harmonious.
What do you mean by that?
It's just like there's Chinese astrology, and based on the signs, like the most compatible.
Oh,
okay.
wow.
So you should date someone who's 31.
No, he's saying date older, so I should date someone who's 39.
Or 43.
Yeah, or 43, right?
How much does your belief in like astrology and all this play into your relationships?
I'm big.
Ooh, yeah. Okay.
How big?
How big?
I mean, it's not like, you're this sign, I can't mess with you.
Oh.
It's not like that.
That's pretty big, though.
He's a Gemini, so he's toxic. You wouldn't date him, right? Like,
no.
Yeah, that's the reason why he won't date me, because I'm a fucking Gemini.
It all makes sense now.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh. I did have an ex that was like that. She was like, "Oh, that's why we don't get along, because you're a Gemini." I'm like, "No, it's because you're a bitch." Like, again, I want to hear where you come from, because obviously you don't take it that far.
When it comes to signs, like there's more than one sign.
Yeah.
We have a rising sign, moon sign, and all these different signs. And there's something called a birth chart that kind of has a bigger picture of who you are.
No, I know.
And then you can put the charts together.
Birth
And then-
chart? What's that?
So it'll show. It'll show.
This toxic motherfucker's about to tell me about
Hey,
this.
you're getting real excited for this.
Yeah, I didn't know you knew about this.
So
shit.
it'll
Yeah,
tell
he
you
doesn't.
obviously like it'll tell you your normal sign where it's like okay you're Virgo, Gemini, whatever,
Uh-huh.
and then it'll go into your moon, right, and then your rising, sun, and everything else. Like for me, I am a Leo, Virgo.
What?
Yeah.
You're Leo sun and
Yeah.
you're rising.
And then the Leo sun,
Yeah.
and then everything else is Virgo.
Okay, see, so this is a good example, right? If you think, oh, you're a Leo, but he has 2 Virgo signs, so he's probably more of a Virgo than a Leo.
Than a Leo,
You know what I
okay.
mean? So that's why it's not accurate just to go off one sign.
Oh.
But when you do like that 2 birth chart together, it can tell you like what you're compatible with and what you're not compatible with.
I dated a girl who was really into astrology, so that's
Yeah.
why.
It makes sense, right? Did it blow your mind?
It's definitely different. For me, it's always been more of the personality test where it's like your INFP, INFJ. That's what
Okay.
I mostly go off of.
Yeah.
But it is very interesting to me to see like these different things where it's like, hey, let me show you this, and I'm like, oh, hey, that is right. Like I am this, or
Yeah.
because she told me from the beginning, you're just like, oh, you don't seem like a Leo, you're like a Virgo, and then
Oh.
she was like, oh, you're on the cusp, where it's like I'm like Leo, Virgo cusp.
Okay.
Don't look at me like I'm crazy. I'm knowledgeable, all right?
Wait, you're a
Always.
Leo Virgo cusp,
Yeah, she told me I'm on the cusp.
and your rising and moon is Virgo?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because she told me when she met, she literally told me when she met me, she's like, oh, you kind of seem like a Leo, but like you're very, like you seem like a Virgo, whatever. It's like, you must be on the cusp. And I was like, oh. And then she's like, what is your birth time and everything? So I have this there's like a little mold of my foot. When I was born, it's like a little plastic mold, and it
Yeah.
shows my birth date and time and everything too. So I'm like, "Hey, mom, where's my little
Can I see
thingy?"
it?
And I'm like, I
Yeah,
looked up.
yeah.
She's like, "Don't talk to that girl."
Nice. She said, "Don't talk to that girl."
But I showed it, and she like put it in for me and everything. She's like, "Yeah, you're this," and I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah.
okay."
So then what happened?
I mean, it was just that. She told me I'm a Leo, Virgo.
It cannot work out or what?
No, it worked out
Oh, it worked out
for a while.
Really?
Then it
Okay.
didn't.
My birth chart like told me my whole story about myself.
Birth chart told your whole story?
I mean, not my whole story, but
Oh.
it helped me understand who I was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like all the different aspects of myself.
Oh. And was that something
Yeah.
like you found out on your own, or did someone tell you? They're like, "Hey,"
Um,
and it's like, "This is what you seem like."
No. I had someone who like read it to me. She gave me a reading, like a chart reading.
Oh.
You can get one. Yeah, you should get one.
You should get one.
Yeah.
So I think this is very close. So we had this conversation with the different guests where you can find insight and meaning, and being able to find insight and meaning in different things in your life is a gift. Where some people, we were talking about anime, like how people are inspired by anime, by like fucking like Goku, Naruto, One Piece, whatever, you know, and you derive this like kind of inspiration from it. This is the same idea. It's just a cousin of it, where it's like you can derive this kind of like, okay, this is what this is saying about my life, and I want to like, either this does resonate with me, I choose to believe this too, and it like inspires me to like think of myself in this way, you know, and it's just a different aspect of that, where it's like you're able to derive that from some kind of like, you know, because some people don't believe in it, some people do, and that's totally okay,
Yeah.
you know, but if you can take something from it, that's a gift.
I think mine's a little different. Like when I tell people I'm Gemini, they're like, "You two-faced motherfucker." There's nothing that I could derive from that. You know what I mean? I'm like, there's no positivity in that. Like the best thing is like, oh yeah, you get along with a lot of people because you're two-faced.
Oh,
I'm
I mean this for anyone who's not a Gemini or Scorpio.
Oh, okay, yeah. Because it doesn't really align.
Just not
with,
Geminis or Scorpios.
No,
There, you know.
Because okay, now that I know you guys know about these things, like what do you think gets the worst rep? Like it's got to be a Gemini, right?
And Scorpio, Geminis and Scorpios.
Really?
Scorpio.
Scorpio too? Really?
Scorpio.
That's what I've heard.
Toxic Scorpio.
But it honestly, it really depends on your philosophy in life too. Because some people do not resonate with this. Like for me, it's like I've always been more like, I love the personality test where it tells you, hey, you're like INFP, ENFP, whatever it is, and that for me, that really resonates with me because I'm like, yeah, this really tells me like. Obviously, I don't base my personality on it, but I'm like, hey, this really tells me something about myself. Where I'm like, yeah, like I am an introvert. Yeah, I do interact with the world in this
yeah.
way. And like for me, that's always been more truthful for me.
What's that test called? Myers.
The Myers-Briggs.
Yeah, but what I don't agree with are like people who like, oh, you're this sign, then I can't
Therefore,
talk to
yeah.
you, like at all. You know what I mean?
Have
Like,
you
Yeah.
met people like that? Have you like? Are you friends with people like that? Or just,
no, but I've been ghosted.
No way! No way!
After I revealed my
wait.
signs.
Because wait, how did the conversation go? Like, hey, my name is Ernest. I am this zodiac sign.
Well, like eventually, like the signs came up. I mean, early on in the conversation.
Okay.
You know, so like my rising sign, I'm a Scorpio.
I think this podcast is done.
And then there was no reply after that.
There's actually
That's
this dude.
fucking
There's this dude
crazy.
on Instagram who goes around. He's like,
Oh, I
yo,
saw that.
Oh, yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
what's your sign, girl? She's like, this. He's like, oh, we could never.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
He
doing
walks
that
away.
because there's some girls that will actually say that to
Oh,
you.
yeah.
It's like,
Oh,
you're
yeah.
this sign that we could never date. Yeah.
Dude,
So I don't
to
agree with
touch
that.
some muddy water right now. Do you think that's more of a woman thing or a male thing? Like let's say like if I'm like a guy and I go up to a girl and I'm like, oh my god, Scorpios
All right.
don't match with Gemini.
Let's do this on 3. Ready?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
Woman.
Women.
Well, look.
I'm just being honest. If I'm like, damn, she's a toxic Scorpio, I can still make it work. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah.
Like,
Like, okay, like you think any guy in his right mind, like a girl approaches him, she's like fire, right? And she's like, hey, let's hook up.
yeah.
And she's like, but I'm a Scorpio. He's gonna say no.
That's what I'm saying.
No,
That's
there's
what I'm saying.
no guy
No.
in the world who will
That's
say
what I'm
no.
saying, though.
Yeah.
The guy's not fire enough. Sorry.
I don't think the guy can be fire enough unless they're a fire sign. That's the only time. That's the only time. That's the only fucking
That's good.
time.
That was
Other
good.
than that,
That's
that
pretty
shit
good.
don't
That's
fucking
pretty
matter.
good. How much does that play into your life, into your dating life though? Like,
I mean,
besides-
it's not like it's just an aspect of it.
Yeah.
But I do the birth chart for like every relationship I've been in.
and does that make like, does that indicate the way your relationship is gonna go at all? Does it change your mind on anything?
No, but there's been times where you do the two charts together, and it's like, this is not a good relationship.
Oh,
You know, and I still give it a chance, of course, but
yeah.
a lot of times it's right. Yeah,
Oh.
there's really compatibility things that come up, you know. So I use it for that kind of like, sort of like give me a heads up kind of thing. But
No, that
but
makes
I
sense.
do it together because it's interesting. You
Yeah.
know, I've never had a birth chart where the person was like, this is totally inaccurate. They might say, oh, I don't agree with this. I agree with this. But there's aspects of it. They're like, wow, that's totally me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
No, I
every
do.
single time.
I think you do have, like, regardless of what something shows you, whatever kind of test, whether it's Myers-Briggs, astrology, anything else, it's like you always have to give it a chance.
Okay, yeah. Let's say that we do give it a chance, right? One question I have is right now, like, you give it a chance, this thing seems to align through the zodiac signs, the Myers-Briggs, everything, right?
Yeah.
Has there been one that's like completely off? You're like, what the fuck? This is not what you fucking told me would happen.
No.
Really?
Yeah.
It's always been right.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Has there been one where you're like, oh, we should be fucking together 100% and it didn't work out?
What do you mean?
Like on the flip side, right? One is like, this person should be fucking crazy. Oh, this test says that it's right. Like zodiac sign.
Oh, you mean
Myers-Briggs shows
like
that,
compatibility wise?
yeah, that you're not compatible.
Yeah.
But what about one where it tells you you're not compatible, but it feels like you're very compatible?
Oh.
Not really.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's been pretty accurate for me.
You kind of have these like intuitions and you believe in these things. The first story I ever heard about you was from Judy, where she said she came into you for like a adjustment and everything too, and you were just like, oh, like you feel off and everything too. Like, was it like just like your sixth sense with your intuition? Like, what is it that told you about it? Because I've always been curious. Where I'm like, she told me that she's like, yeah, he said I was like closed off to my energy, and I need to like open up. And I was like, damn, he was right. Like, how did he know? Like, I can tell too.
Hey, Mario got it too.
Well, you said it. You could tell too.
Yeah.
Which is like everyone has that sense. Everyone can have an intuition about someone or something to a certain extent, right? We can tell when we're in a bad situation. Like I get bad vibes, you know, or I get a bad feeling about this person or this situation, right? So I think we all have that intuitive capability. It's just how much you refine it, how much you use it in your life, and how familiar you are with it. So I've just over the years become more familiar to how it comes to me, how I receive it. Everyone receives it differently, you know what I mean? And for me, it just happens when I'm in my office, like working on somebody.
How would you go about refining it?
A lot of different ways. It kind of depends on the person too. Like there's many different ways to do it, but I would say generally speaking, you refine it through your body, through your mind, and through your spirit.
Okay.
So through your body physically, you know, what you do to stay healthy, That's different for everybody. What you put into your body, how much rest you get. Mentally is what how you feed your mind, what kind of things you feed your mind, how you empty your mind, and then your spirit is doing enough things to fill your spirit, your creative hobbies or things that excite you, having that filled. And between those three things, I think that sort of raises your dial, like sound volume, I guess, and
vibration.
how loud you can hear the messages of
How
their
easy you
sound.
can pick it up.
Yeah.
Ooh, I like that. Ooh,
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah.
So I'm curious now that you said you've refined it, and usually it comes to you through your work,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Have you ever had a significant other come through because you're like, hey, it's come through for like, like for me, check you out and make sure you're okay. But really,
What do you mean? That's his pickup line.
No, well, it's a significant other. You know what I mean? Let's say you have a significant other, and you're like, hey, are you right? And she's like, yeah, I'm okay. I'm fine. And you're like, no, it seems like something's off. Like, are you sure? And she's like, yeah, I'm fine. And you're like, oh, why don't you come into my work and I want to make sure that you're all right.
That's how they became my significant other.
That's what I just said. That's his pickup.
No, I'm kidding. Yeah, I have felt that.
Really?
Felt that. Yeah. But again, I try to turn that off outside of my work life because, first of all, there's sort of like a respect, right? You want to respect the other person's, I don't want to say privacy, but you don't want to try to read somebody without them being open to that.
Isn't that like, I'm sorry, I got to talk about this because
Yeah.
I'm like, isn't that kind of funny though? Because maybe I'm just speaking from my own experiences, right? Like my significant others have always wanted me to read their minds. I'm just being honest, right? I'm just being fucking 100% honest. Like they'll never tell me straight up. They want to be like, you should know.
Yeah.
Like I'll be like, hey, can I go out with the boys? Like, yeah, of course, do whatever you want. Perfect. And I'll go out. I'll get back and be like, I don't want to talk to you. I'm like, what the fuck did I do? Like, I'm like, no, I don't know. I can't fucking read your mind.
Yeah.
That's exactly the fucking problem. You know what I mean? So it is kind of funny because you if you could do that, yes, you don't need consent, right? But you respect the idea that they want to give consent. But at the same time, they almost don't want you to have consent. They want you to figure that shit out on your own.
I still don't know which restaurant to choose.
Yes.
Kind of flexible.
But you know what the trick to that is though, right?
What's the trick?
You go like, oh, surprise, you know where I'm taking you tonight?
Where?
And then I'll be like, take a guess. And then they'll guess it and they're like, that's exactly where I say, how'd you know? So that's how you do it.
There's no way that works.
Dude,
There's
it works.
no
It
way
works.
that
It fucking
works.
works.
Yes.
It fucking works. It fucking works. And I'm telling you, as a person who's been in multiple, my relationships are usually the shortest one is a year and a half. That's one of them. 4 years, 10 years, they're all super fucking long. And after a while, you learn these tips and tricks. And it might not work when you're just dating and you're just figuring a person out because you don't know each other's mannerisms. But after a while, you do kind of figure out these tips and tricks.
Guess where I'm taking you? McDonald's? Yeah, baby.
Yeah, how did you fucking know? And I swear to God, most of the time, they do want McDonald's. I swear to fucking God.
Please date older. So usually on the show, we like to ask our guests this question. What is your craziest relationship?
What do you mean?
What is the craziest dating experience that you've had? Something that pops out of your mind where oh shit, this was crazy. Whether it's a girlfriend or someone you were dating, someone you just met off a dating app, anything, something that is an outlier in your dating experience.
Good way to phrase it.
I'll give you an example. We've had guests who their girls have fake pregnancies. I've had a girl who was a furry.
Cancer.
Yeah, someone who faked cancer. There's some crazy ass stories. Have you had?
That's called a furry?
A furry? That's
no.
Wait, do you know what a furry is?
No. I'm innocent.
A furry is somebody who likes to have sex while wearing a costume that is an animal costume, like a furry animal costume, like a panda or a cat or a bear or something.
Okay.
With a full on head, a tail, all furry and stuff, and that's how they get off. Yeah. Yeah, it's literally a thing. There's furry con in Anaheim. There's literally a furry con almost every weekend in the United States.
But they take the costume off?
No, they keep it on during sex. They take it off when they're done.
So there's compartments that
Yeah, there's like little holes. You can
Wow.
but the tail's on there and everything too.
Yeah.
I've never encountered a furry.
See, that's one of Mario's craziest
You
stories.
don't even
So
you don't even want to
I don't
know
if
what
I'd
their
top
birth
that.
chart is.
Huh?
So you don't even want to know what their birth chart is. So that's been one of my crazy experiences, you know.
Man.
So it's like anything that stands out to you in your mind, like, tell us.
I don't really have like a crazy relationship story like that.
What?
Maybe he is the crazy one. Oh. He's like, give me your birth chart right now. All right, guys, welcome back to Lightning Round, where we ask our guests some rapid fire questions. If he can't answer on time, he has to take a sip of his water. Ernest, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All
No,
right.
I'm not ready. You didn't tell me about this. I felt like this whole podcast was a lightning round.
Oh, then get ready now.
You should be used to it by now.
All right, I'm used to it. Let's go.
All right, 1, 2, 3. What's your biggest, deepest, darkest secret? All right, if you weren't a chiro, what would you be?
I would be doing something online, either some type of creative, I don't know, content creation or some kind of online business. I think.
What makes you the happiest?
What makes me the happiest right now? Playing basketball.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What's your team?
No, like me actually playing with my
But
friends.
do you have a team?
Oh, yeah, Lakers.
Okay.
Yeah, Lakers, baby.
If you were a DJ, what would your name be?
Oh, I actually DJ'd a wedding.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
What?
And I was DJ Ernest.
Ernest. I like that. Oh, okay. I see the creativity.
What's the one thing you've learned this year?
Putting myself out there was a good decision that I made. And even on this podcast today, like just answering your questions and kind of sharing my personal story of my life that I've never really shared publicly is scary, but it's empowering at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
So I learned that I'm here to do that. I'm here to share my story.
And we love it. What's one of your goals for 2023?
My goals is to date more, free up my time, not be so consumed with work.
Ooh, okay.
You know.
Describe your perfect woman.
Oh.
There is no perfect woman.
Damn. Okay.
Aspects of a woman that you like or your preference.
Okay, yeah, I'll go there. So aspects, willing to grow, right? Willing to grow individually, willing to grow together. She has to be inspired. She has to be fit. Not like, I'm not talking about a specific physique, but just like into being active, into taking care of the body. So, earlier I said taking care of the body, the mind, and the spirit. So basically, someone who's willing to do that, they don't have to be like me and share all the same interests, but those are like the most important qualities for me.
They don't need to get protein powder as gifts.
Exactly.
And my last question, do you have a fetish?
Do I have a fetish? Damn, I don't. No, I can't.
So you do. Adrian likes BDSM. What?
Oh, you like anyway.
What the fuck? Peter is into. He likes it when girls have runny makeup, like when they cry. He loves. I looked it up. There's an actual term for it for girls who cry and their makeup runs. Yeah. That's his thing. What? Adrian's into BDSM. Mine is furries.
What did he say?
All right, go.
Favorite Korean dish?
Favorite Korean dish?
Yeah.
Oh man, it's too hard to choose one.
Just one.
Just one. This is boring, but Korean ramen.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like a military casserole type of thing, or just like specific like Korean.
Just like ramen you get from the Korean market.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's all right. Cool. If you had to change your zodiac sign, what would it be?
Oh.
You can figure yourself out.
You know what? Maybe be a Leo.
We are the best.
You made the wrong choice. All right. Number of kids, if you had to.
2.
2. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. One place you would love to travel in the world if you had one place left to travel.
I haven't traveled a whole lot.
Okay.
I am traveling to Thailand again. So it's my second trip to Thailand.
Ooh.
And I really Southeast Asia. I really want to explore that whole region.
Hell yeah.
That's a great region, bro.
Very good.
You should. I'm telling you right now.
So
All right. So if right now, very last date you could ever go on with the perfect zodiac sign that matches yours, what would be the perfect date?
the sign or the date?
The date, like you could fucking like pull out the whole story. Like, this is how I picked her up. This is how I ended.
Oh. I think the perfect date isn't so much like what we're doing; it's the connection. Because you meet somebody, right, and you can talk for hours. Like, time just flies, you know, and you're like, oh dang, we have to go home. It's because there's so much in common. Not even common, but there's a vibe that's common. You know what I mean? So I think a perfect date is, meeting someone that you just hit it off with, you know, right from the start. And it feels like there's so much more to share, but like you got to go home.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's like a good sign.
Yes.
Unfortunately, yes. Then.
Yeah.
You said you're 37?
37.
All right. Where do you see yourself in your 40s?
My 40s. Man, well, hopefully by then I'll be settled down.
Oh,
You know, hopefully married with kids maybe by then. Yeah. It's not like a goal necessarily to me. Like, getting married and having kids isn't like the next goal. It's something that I would like to see happen. So there's not like, it's not something I'm aiming for, like that's next on my list, you know, because if it does, it does. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I'm okay with that. But in terms of like my life in my 40s, that'd be cool. That'd be cool to see that.
All right, guys, that concludes our lightning round. I want to say thank you to our very tall, very handsome guest, Ernest. Let us know where we can find you.
Nasty.
You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube. It's all the same handle, Dr. Ernest Kim. DRERNESTKIM.
And thank you guys for joining us this long. Make sure you like, subscribe, and comment below what you guys want us to talk about next. And remember,
Live fast, eat ass.